Welcome to the second year of these Tuesday sessions every Tuesday. This year, some of you might have received my letter of like, hello, how you doing? This was my year, and these are my plans for the next year. So part of my plans for this 2020 is I actually decided that I am connected with more things that only SPT, and that maybe they're all kind of involved the same and they're connected. And so last year I only dedicated these sessions to social presence in theater, and pretty much that's it. But I want to expand that and invite people to talk about mindfulness specifically. For example, constellations or neuro-linguistic programming or clowning. I hope that one of my teachers, my clown teachers, will say yes and come and talk to us. And my hope is that all these different modalities that I have, trained and I have, what's the word, kind of tried and done, that I feel have kind of made who I am right now, can actually also give you something and inspire you in like different ways. So that's kind of the idea for this year. And some of these people that, for example, next the following in March, I've invited somebody to talk about constellations, and she's also an SPT practitioner. So some of those things will still connect with SPT as well. So today, welcome everybody. This is the Mery Miguez in Conversations show. I love it. Okay, so why this name is just because I actually realized that all we do is have conversations, even with ourselves. Like I have conversations with myself the whole time. Like, now it's easier for me to talk in the street with myself because people talk on the phone and you don't even know that they're talking to someone. So it's like I'm talking on the phone kind of thing. So we're having conversations all the time. And I realized, why not actually focusing on that part? How is it, like, what kinds of conversations are we interested in? And how do we hold these conversations so that they become generative conversations, whatever conversation we end up having. So today I wanted to touch on, sorry, before we get into the theme of today, the format is going to be similar in the sense of there will be some sense of, starting a conversation. I don't want to use the word presentation, but like starting the conversation with something. And then the idea is that we will, we will comment, we will ask questions, and we will engage in conversation. Okay. So what I want to talk about, I want us to engage in conversation today, is service as a way of life and sustainability. So I'm assuming that everybody that comes here, because for that thing that we ended up kind of attracting a lot of what people that are kind of like us. So I'm assuming that a lot of people are here interested in service and service as a way of life, not just service in the sense of like, okay, my work is service, because I'm also kind of finding a new meaning for the word work as well. Like I've started to think of work as those things we do because we care of our our own bodies, the earth body and the social body. So we engage in these things, and these things that we do for me are service. So again, we could say we are serving our job if we have a job from like 9 to 5, but we can also serve when, I don't know, when we're like down the street, or when we are at a dinner and we notice that somebody needs water. So it's almost like a stance. Where do we stand to communicate, to connect, to interact? What is my stance? My stance is to be of service. And so I'm talking about this because I'm assuming people are somewhat going through similar things, and we can start putting words to some of the things that are like maybe we unconsciously do. Okay, so I did a little PowerPoint, but mostly to be my notes. So let me see where they are. Okay, let me just go get it first and then I'll share. I'll share. Here we go. Can you go for a second? Okay, thank you. There it is. I'm gonna say present. Okay. Cool. Wonderful. Okay, so service as a way of life and sustainability and exploration. There is a book called The Servant Leadership. I'm pretty sure some of you at least have heard of it, if not read it. This became a seminal book in a lot of people that work with leadership, mainly Joseph Jorovsky, Peter Senge, I'm pretty sure Otto Scharmer, and Arowana. Actually, this guy, Robert Greenleaf, is the grandfather of one of the teachers in the Shambhala community. I just found out through Arowana. And so this man wrote this book in the 70s, and it became kind of the base for a lot of the leadership that we all know. And he proposed that service ought to be the distinguishing characteristic of leadership. Not only would it create a better, stronger society, but people themselves will find greater joy in their lives if they raise the servant aspect of their leadership and build more servant institutions. He says that a servant leader will always inquire what other people need. Like there's the sense of having this antennae that we talk about when we do villages, this antennae of noticing and looking and paying attention what other people need. And while we serve them, do they grow as persons? Do they become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants because they receive this way of interaction and they will love to actually do the same. Also, another part of this servant leadership is that it becomes an inner, a cultivation of an inner quality because we cultivate this sense of almost like expanding from me to what is happening outside of me. And again, as I was saying before, I think that is born in a feeling of feeling the impact of our everyday life and then responding, but from a place of caring. I care about what's going on. Therefore, I do something. And that what I do is service. So to me, it's like, service is what we do and why we do it. It's pretty much what we were talking about before. What are the things that we do that it could be even like getting ready to go outside, for me is a way of service, because the way we present ourselves could actually wake something into other people, could wake a smile, could start a conversation in a different way. So everything we do and why we do it, because we care again. So this service that we do then, to me, needs to be sustainable. And so my interest for me to bring this conversation today is to bring the conversation of how do we make this whole thing that we already do sustainable? Because I think it's a conversation that most of the time, at least, maybe this is just me, but a lot of the time when I hear the word sustainability is connected to climate change, which is fantastic and wonderful. But I feel sustainability also connects to ourselves. Is it sustainable for me to do this service? Am I actually taking care of myself emotionally, physically, and of course financially? Because all those three things do make a difference, whether we do them or not. So when I was looking into sustainability, it's been actually the beginning of this year that I started finding like gold, basically. And I found one author after another, and that is kind of taking me into this, how to say, like chain of findings and connections, and that make me think and feel for the first time. It's like I feel I found it. Finally, I found it, because I never felt connected with the economy of like charging for my work, because my work is not like I make, bread and then I sell it and I give the bread, you give the money, and that's the end of the transaction. The work that I do, the way I feel called to serve, doesn't have price. How could you put price to transformation? And I feel that a lot of us are in the same place. So when I started reading about the gift economy, that I actually heard of it in the first, I think the second ULAB, when Otto invited Nipun Meta. At the time I couldn't really, like, it didn't call me so hard, but now it's like, this is the way to me. This is what actually could make sustainable. Not for one person, but it's about transforming society. It's about how we connect and how we interact with each other. So to me, this gift economy and all these slides that I'm going to show you after are all inspired in Nipun, in the work of Nipun Meta, and he created a platform that's called Service Space. At the end, I put a slide with some videos and some resources that you can go and start looking for yourself if you're interested. And Service Space is a website. It has tons and tons and tons of material there to start looking into this. So one of the things Nipun Meta said that connects with me, it's when we give something of ourselves. And to me, that is so true, because when we really find that place where we say, okay, this is me, and I am actually happy to be me, and I have this to give. So when we give a gift, it's whatever we have, and how we try to make it, at least to put a little paper or to put a little ribbon. When we give a gift, we do it because we want to, and from a place of absolute total abundance, because this is what we have and we want to give it. So to me, to enter in this kind of gift economy, it needs that kind of work before. Like I think this is why I didn't connect with this in 2016. I feel that there is a place that we get where this makes sense. This saying of when we're born, we get this gift, and the purpose of our lives is actually give the gift. I feel there is a whole journey from the getting the gift to actually get ready to give the gift. So, and when we do that, I think it really comes back, because and then in the other slides there's something else that connects with this part, and I'll leave it for that. Then gifts always imply future gifts, and the community is woven from gifts. When somebody takes us out for dinner and they say, it's on me, you don't you feel, I feel this, like, wow, thank you. First thing that comes up is gratitude, right? And then you go, okay, I'll do it next time. Or, you go back, you go to their place and bring a bottle of wine. So there's a sense of start creating this chain of generosity and gifts, and wanting to make the other feel like I don't know, this rush that we get from the giving, and the reaction of the other when they receive. So, and gratitude is the knowledge of having received and the desire to give in return. So I feel that that is also key, and that is something that happens, but I don't know how much we're actually aware of that moment. And I don't know how much we understand the importance of that moment, of what happens in that place. Let me see this part. This thing that we are wired to give, I feel that actually we're dying to give. A lot of us feel, sometimes when we feel low or we feel bad or we feel depressed, it's because we're not giving. We're actually not giving our gifts, and therefore they kind of somehow start festering, I don't know what's the word in English, inside of ourselves, because they want to come out. They're meant to come out. When we give, we receive instantaneously, many times over. That happens to me all the time. Like, I feel, okay, I'm giving a session and I feel like, well, I don't know, it's not that much. But when I actually notice what impact got in the other person, and at the end of the gift, I feel I received more than what I think I gave the other person. And so in a way, there's a sense of this whole giving, there's a way of actually healing ourselves and giving to ourselves that also happens. And with this kind of mentality and this way of looking at things now, our daily life becomes a canvas for generosity. And this is what we were talking at the beginning. Like, this sense of service can actually happen all the time. And then who do we become in this process of giving? What happens with us when we engage in this way? And this thing that I was saying before, the gifts are meant to be given. So Nipun Meta talks about the head, the heart, and the hand being aligned. And I don't know if he got this before Theory U, or maybe it's part of his own training in his life. But he started with this about 15 years ago. So this sense of aligning the head is like wisely investing in the greatest of our capital. And capital here, it's again, I usually connect the word capital with money, but in this way, capital actually becomes the network, the relationships, what gets created in this way of interacting with each other. And then the way the hearts align is that assumes value everywhere. And like, it's almost this sense of being open to the gifts that I'm actually receiving the whole time, that just because I'm thinking of something else or preoccupied for something else, I don't get to even notice most of the time. And the way the hands align is that we courageously design for the full spectrum of this wealth. So it's not, again, just the interaction of like, I give you, you give me something, and then it ends there. But it actually is the full spectrum of the connection and how this network actually gets, growing and growing with each gift and interaction. So the gift economy says that the circulation of these gifts is what leads to the vitality of society, not accumulation. So this constant circulation of gifts, I give you, you give me, we give to somebody, and that person gives to somebody else. That is what connects and what leads to this vitality. So in this case, wealth is actually not being measured by how much I have, but by how much I give, and with that, how much I actually connect. And that's interesting. Another source that I've been connecting and reading a lot is Charles Eisenstein with the Sacred Economy. I don't know if some of you know of this book. So Nipun Meta talks about key 4 shifts that actually needs to happen in this culture of giving. And the first shift is from consumption to contribution. Instead of I consume, and not only products, but sometimes we go to these programs when we want to learn, we want to grow, we care about what people are saying. But sometimes, I don't know you, but I have done it from the consumption point of view. I go and consume whatever this person is offering or giving, and somehow it kind of ends there. I don't do much with that. But when I actually shift that from contribution, I take the contribution that these people are giving me, and then I contribute myself in whatever way. So one small example that to me is very clarifying that NEPA Meta gives in this part is the example of when you pay the toll in your car. You know, you're in line waiting to pay your toll, which doesn't happen so much lately because you have the little machine that kind of you just keep driving. But the thing is, when you stop and you pay your toll, and then you say, you know what, I'm going to pay for the car behind. I'm going to pay forward. I appreciate the service that has been given, and I just want to pay for somebody else. So now when the next car comes and says, hi, how much is it? The person says nothing, because the one in front of you already paid for you. So what do you do in that moment? You say, wow, thank you. Thank you to whom? Because you don't know who that person is. So that interconnection that starts to get created, you don't know. So then what do? You say thank you and keep driving, or you kind of get that energy, that inspiration, and you say, you know what, I'm going to pay for the one behind me. And so then again, it's this feeling of like, I'm here and I receive from somebody I don't know, and I give to somebody I don't know. So it's not so much this sense of giving only to the people that we know or care most. So it's that shift from consumption to contribution. What is my contribution? A shift from transaction to trust. Again, this shift happens when we can trust in the Shambhala. We talk the basic goodness of the human being. The assuming that instead of assuming the humans being were selfish, we actually assume we're selfless. We actually care about others. So we start to develop in this trust in ourselves and in the others and in the situation that I'm actually taking care of. And that is kind of hard, because when we start depending on a salary that we know is there and it's going to come every month, to actually jump into, I'm giving a gift and I don't know what comes back. And so it's a trust also in jumping to that pool of feeling the care of the universe also for ourselves. Another shift from isolation to community, to me that's very clear. It comes again, Charles Einstein talked a lot about this part, community. He says that when I talk to people, what people feel the need, the biggest need is for community. And why we don't have community lately is because of the kind of economy that we have, that everything is put into money. So money can buy whatever we need, in the sense of we need our kids to be taken care of. We pay a babysitter. He says, when I was young, there was no such a thing, because there was not the need for it, because kids will actually hang out in people's houses. People will take care of each other's kids. That's one example. So when I go from isolation, like I don't need you for anything, what creates community is the sense of needing something and find it in the other, and then receiving it and wanting to give back. So that's what actually creates community. And the last one, the shift from scarcity to abundance, that I feel again is that sense. To me, when that becomes the most clear is in that part where I was saying, we trust in the abundance of our own life. Because if you come to see at the end of the day, some of the most important things we have not paid for, which is like, for example, our lives. We didn't earn our lives. We have, we got our lives as a gift. Like the sun is one of the main sources of actually allowing that this earth can exist altogether. We don't pay the sun anything. The sun is there, and we actually get the gift of this the energy and whatever it does for us. And it doesn't ask for anything or doesn't expect anything either. So when we go from consumption to contribution, then we appreciate and we receive, and then we want to pay forward in the example of the paying the toll. When we go from transaction to trust, we start relying into the interconnectedness that is. It's the only thing that we actually, that exists. We are interconnected. Whatever we do over here, sometimes a lot of things we do in this part of the globe impacts the other side exactly. And so everything we do at some level connects us to something else or somebody else. When we go from isolation to community, we start cultivating these networks that create when we start giving. There's these ties that get created when we start giving. And when we go from scarcity to abundance, we start to experience the generosity, the generative power that creates this feeling gratitude. So, just to close, Nipun Meta says that giftivism is the practice of radically generous acts that change the world. So it's really radical to decide I am going to trust that by giving, I will receive. And when I'm actually giving, I am receiving. So what makes us actually take on this radical practice? Okay. And these are the resources that I will send you. I will put them in the YouTube channel after in the comments, in the comment part of this recording. So that is kind of what I had in mind. I don't know what you get from this, and I'll be very curious to engage in conversation now. What's coming up for you?
Deep gratitude. Thank you, Mery. That was absolutely beautiful.
You're welcome. Do you feel that somehow this makes sense in your life, in what you're doing, in what you're trying to do?
I think yes, absolutely, because it, as you underlined at the beginning, it's the cultivation of an inner quality, and just listening to you, speak about it and share your own connection to all of this. It really, for me, brings up a whole very expansive energy. There's a lot of space, really, and really a pregnant space, not empty space, that comes out of that, with a lot of both supportive and wants to grow energy. So it's a great inner place to connect to, and a great vision to have for what it is we are trying to create. Those are words that, it's like putting words on things that we want to create.
Yeah, that is interesting. Because I also do all this work in Spanish, and since now I'm in Argentina, I started to work more here in South America. And so whatever I find, I have to research in English and then in Spanish, so I can share it in Spanish as well. So when I was looking for The Sacred Economy, the book from Charles Eisenstein, I found this Chilean guy and it's funny, after he said it, I went, yes, because he said, wow, when I read this book, I went, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one that's thinking that this actually makes sense. So great. And not only that, there's somebody that actually articulated in a way that, and not only with words, but with tons of research about economy and the economy of the United States and the economy of the world, and like how do we relate with money and all that. So I felt the same. I felt like, wow, actually now it makes sense. And this is one of the things I want to do with my work. I want to apply it in my work. I want to, whatever I do, I want it to be a gift. And I want to trust that the gift will be received and then something will come back and I will be taken care of. Because it doesn't resonate with me, the charging, the putting a price, not even the suggested donation. Because what I'm trying to create with this, it's not just a way to support myself, but it's a way to shift society and how do we relate. Because if like again, if we're going to come to a place and we're just going to sit there passively consuming something, and then maybe we'll use it or not, I feel that it doesn't completely full close the circle. I feel that the thing that when people come and, you know, take the gift and then contribute back, and then not only with the gift back to the person, but with giving other gift to other people in their own way, I think that's when actually, you know, continues this, what NEPA Meta calls the chain of generosity. So that's kind of a radical thing that I'm doing too. And I feel happy. If, you know, there's one tiny little part of me that goes, really? And, but then it's like, you know, I feel that it's not going to happen like this. It's going to be a process, and it's going to be engaging with it, and it's going to be staying with it, that I think it might produce a shift. And the other thing is, like, you know, there's some work that I do with institutions that already are into the system that we have, that I kind of don't think it makes sense to tell them I do a gift, and, you know, so I might have to like work with that in that part. But whatever I create, I want to do it like this. So I guess I'm wondering, because when I started to look at this, I started to look at actually all the gifts that I'm already receiving. Like, could you even like name, even for yourselves, some gifts that you are already receiving?
Mery, I'm thinking as you're talking, and for the last 2 years, as I've been involved in ULab and hosting a hub, more and more I feel aligned with my purpose in some intangible way, and more I'm seeing and experiencing synchronicities, and I'm just much more able to feel into and trust that it's not coincidence. And so when you talked at the beginning of your presentation about servant leadership, I had never heard of servant leadership until maybe a couple of years ago. And I volunteer once a week with the L'Arche organization that was founded by Jean Vanier in France, which in my community, they have a group home for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And then they also have an art studio that's open Monday to Friday, where those individuals go, and also people from the community who, you know, perhaps people who have still living with their parents, but come out to socialize and experience joy and growth and sharing through art. So it was in that context that I first heard about servant leadership. And then just recently, like last week, a colleague shared a paper with me from the organization in the US that leads Collective Impact, FSG. And we're involved in some collective impact initiatives in my workplace here in Canada. And it was an article about different styles of leadership, and it talked about servant leadership. And today you're talking about servant leadership. So that just tells me, okay, it's the tap on the shoulder I need to look into servant leadership. So thank you. And that's, to me, those are gifts.
Yeah. When I was listening, because I don't read books, I listen to books. When I was listening to the book that Joe Jarofsky wrote, it's a book that I can't. Synchronicity, I think it's called Synchronicity. He tells his story, and so he went from being a very, very successful lawyer, and also being the son of an incredibly successful lawyer. So and all that it takes, in the kind of paradigm that we still live on. Something happened in his life that completely shifted, like from day to night. And the thing that got him out of that place, a very dark place where he got into it, his sister said, take this book, I think it might make sense to you. And it was servant leadership. And so that is what took him to create everything that he created after. And then, the relationship he started with Otto, and all this, like, Theory U kind of comes from the work of the two of them together. So it's actually a very interesting. And the funny thing, that happened to me sometimes when there are things that are so somewhat obvious in a way, because, we talk about servant leadership. When we hear, it's not new in a way. It's like, it was like, yeah, absolutely, it makes sense. That's the way we'll be with each other. Or the feeling we get when we listen to Theory U. It's what is new. It's the way somebody actually put all that together and is able to deliver it so that we can relate our experience with what these people are saying. So I think that's the genius of these people. And definitely their gifts.
I want to share that when I read the title of this session for today, because I just look at my mail this afternoon, and I found that title, and it really touched to me, because I very involved in the new economy, and but I really feel that this new economy is always trying to solve a problem, just going not to the lucrative, for making profit for yourself, to share the profit for all the people, no, for the common good economy. So when you said that gift, it really resonated with me. I really think that when you try to give the best of you, the universe maybe gives to you something greater than you give. No, so maybe this is the beginning of a new conscious way to make it happen in our real life. No, and I have also been wondering, how can I trust more in the universe, and also in my value, and just to try to be in this giftedness, no? So it made me maybe more sure that that's a way that I should look to work on it. No? So thank you very much for this. And that's what I wanted to share.
Thank you. That is a really good point. That's a very, very good point, what you share. Because in me personally, now I have this feeling of like, it's okay. I go give whatever, like I feel inspired to talk about this. And the feeling of the talk being perfect, I used to, kind of think about that before, and it'll lead me only to, like, you know, this was where the author says, like, analysis paralysis, absolute total paralysis, absolute total paralysis, doing nothing and sitting for years and years and years and years. My partner will tell me in San Francisco, hey, hello, how many more trainings do you think you're gonna take? How many more trainings do you need? Like, you're more prepared than like tons of people I know, and you're still sitting on your butt over here. What's the deal? And I will go, no, I'm not ready. It's just like panic that I will have. I'm not ready. No, I don't have anything to give. That was really strong. What could I possibly, that was at the beginning when I got authorized or named teacher of SPT. I went like, really? Me? I don't know. Like, what? I mean, with all these people that are already doing so much, what could I possibly give? And it is a journey. It is a journey to go through finding yourself, it's more than finding, it's actually connecting with your own gifts. Like, what is it that makes you so passionate? You know, like the usual thing that people say when they do marketing or trying to get you in, like, your, you know, what's the job of your life and whatever. One usual thing that people say is like, what will be the thing that you do without even getting paid? And sometimes you go, really? I don't know. I need to get paid. But like, what will be the thing that you will never get tired to do? Because that's the thing what gives you life to actually do it. And I feel it is true. It is true. I find it for myself right now. The idea is not, I'm working with you know, call a client is kind of funny, with a friend or person or somebody I actually connect with. We were doing a session yesterday because he felt stuck in his, like he was saying, I tried this past year, I tried like 5 different things and nothing worked. And at the end of the work, he realized that we actually went through the workshop that I've been doing, the Becoming What I Create. Instead of doing a session, I said, let's go through this workshop together. And after that, he realized that what he was doing is to put the focus on the money, on how much he was actually making from all these different projects. And he realized that he wanted to shift the focus to giving. And giving is the sense of actually giving the service that he has. To, instead of finding how much money he can make or how much money he can charge, it's like, how many more people can I actually give it to? So I feel that when we do that, then attraction starts to get created. And it does it, to me, again, that's the thing that needs to trust. So I'm going to do it, but then if I do it as a gift, but then if I don't get anything, I mean, keep doing it and it'll happen. That's where I'm at right now. Because another thing that happens is that when you get into this train, you start seeing all the gifts that you're getting anyways. You know, like, and all the ways people are actually giving you. That's another thing that happened for me from last year to this year. I realized that that's another part when we start giving, that the giving is kind of nice, right? But the receiving, it's, I don't know. I don't know if I'm open myself to receive, because that's what I've been doing. I was like, I'm so generous. I give. But I don't open the door for people to say, hey, you can also give me. I'm here to receive. It was a fundamental shift that I needed to do for myself, because in the giving, there's some control that we can have, but in the receiving, there's no control, because you receive what people give you. And so at least for myself, when I said, okay, I release the control of what I'm going to get, then I can close the cycle, close this chain of interaction. I give and I receive, which makes me give, which opens me to receive. And so I was just going like this, like this, like this, and I wasn't letting the other part coming in, therefore wasn't coming in. So that's another part. So I'm talking a lot. Somebody else wants to share.
I would like to add that when you appreciate what you receive, it generates a kind of hormone that stimulates the well-being of your. This has been proven in neuroscience, and also the people taking taking research about this. So it also has an effect on your body, because of this hormone that makes you be like in a different vibration. Maybe we talk about energy. So I think it's like a way of being, and this attracts something different. No, when you close your appreciation, it's like you are in bad mood for saying something. I think.
That is true. That absolutely true. I think the hormone that you're talking about is dopamine, I think. I also would love to research that, because I'm convinced that's the case. And that's actually because you feel that's the rush that I was talking about before, the rush that you get when you give and you see the other person receiving. And then what makes you want to give more. And like that, it's almost like, like pressing the button so that the cycle can start happening. But that takes, again, to me, that takes that internal work of getting to a place with ourselves, to get ourselves to give, and then to get ourselves to receive. Because again, as I was saying, this receiving happens instantaneously. And it happens even many, many times more than what you give. So, but why is it that we're not so conscious about it most of the time? Or we notice it, but I think it's this false sense of egolessness of, oh, I'm so important, I just gave, and now I'm going to receive. These people get so enlightened because of what I gave. I think that maybe we're somehow afraid of feeling that way, and so then we close. I feel maybe that's kind of what might have happened to me. I just give. But then there is that sense of control as well, of not being able to control what you receive. But in any case, what's life anyways? We don't know what's going to happen the next second. We can have ideas and plans, but then things happen.
I keep thinking about how it's not a linear, I give, that person gives back, and if I get stuck in that loop, then I can get resentful or whatever. But if I get out of that loop and really look back at, maybe I already received from someplace else, or maybe it's down the road. And I've had that actually, where something has been set up that I've participated in that had been a gift economy. And initially I didn't feel like giving, and that felt weird. And then something would shift down the road, and then I would. And so there is something about giving up control and not knowing when the timing or where it's coming from or who. It's just kind of it's in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that really resonates with me a lot. That you brought up this idea of giving up control on the receiving, so that you can start giving up control on the giving and get into the flow of it, and you're not calculating what you're giving, because maybe in the first place you stop calculating what you're receiving. And And so this idea of getting into the flow of it, not again another calculation, a different way to calculate stuff, but moving from transaction to the flow of things. That is, I think that's the fundamental shift. And to get there, taking into consideration the receiving part of it, not just the giving, which okay, we all need a good lesson on giving repeated over and over again, but at the same time getting the lesson in receiving. And I think that part, you cannot have one without the other, or then it's still about control. And I remember a long time ago when I started also with the alternative economics, etc., the exchange systems that were created. One of the main rules they had was you cannot just give. Obviously you cannot just receive. You can't just get into a group and take and never give anything. Well, that's kind of obvious to everyone. But the rule that is not so obvious is you can also not be only the giver, because then there's something about power there if you do that.
Absolutely.
Or etc. So it's not balanced. There's a problem. So it has to be. It doesn't have to be today you give 5 and you receive 5, and it has to your accounts have to be in balance all the time. But over time, you need to be in that working on that balance, and I guess developing that awareness of how you flow on both ends of it. And I think that's what moves things from transaction to flow.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put as a resource, thank you for your comment, reminded me of Bert Hellinger, and the kind of the founder, I will say, the one that developed the work of constellations, this German guy, Bert Hellinger. He talks extensively about exactly what you said, Delphine, about this balance, this power balance between giving and receiving, that there has to be not always the receiver, neither always the giver. And that happens a lot in partnerships, in relationships, like couples relationships, when one is only the giver and the other one only the receiver. And it actually stucks the flow of the relationship. The same, I think, with parents and children, and like in business as well. So that's a great point. I'll remember to find something about that with Bert Hellinger and put it in the resources as well. So let me see. Time.
If I could share a quote that just I heard last week, and it's coming to mind listening to you wise women. I was participating in Tara Brach's Radical Compassion Challenge, and she quoted an Australian Indigenous woman, and the quote was, "If you have come here to help me, you are wasting your time. But if you have come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together."
I have chills.
That concept that we feel good when we offer help to others, but none of us feels good about needing to receive help.
Exactly.
Dignity.
That is a fantastic way to close. Thank you for that quote. So let's take a moment to again receive everything that we've gotten from this conversation, from the contributions of all of us. And let's contribute with the word back into the space. How do we feel right now?
Nourished.
Thank you. Nourished.
Wide.
Natural flow.
Natural flow. Thank you.
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Nice to see your face, Christine.
Centered, but like really centered.
Really centered. Thank you. I feel the words that come up are full and overflowing. So I don't know if Silvana can actually share, but let's go ahead and listen and from Eve.
Trust and flow.
Trust and flow. Beautiful, beautiful. So thank you so much. And this gets me really excited. I really, I'm committed to create these kinds of conversations, and thank you for coming, and thank you for even like sharing this. If you feel other people could as well, those who are benefit from this, I will put it in the YouTube channel if you want to share it or hear it again. And thank you so much. Next week, we're going to have the usual second Tuesday of the month, which is cultivating the interior condition. And since I'm on my way to Uruguay, that day, I asked our dear Shannon to lead us in that cultivating the inner condition. So let's see what she comes up with. And I'm sure all of you will enjoy having and receiving the gift of Shannon leading you, and I'll be happy to hear how it went. So that's happening next Tuesday, and the third Tuesday we'll have the usual community online SBT practice day, and we'll continue with the generative conversations in the end of the fourth Tuesday of the month. Okay. Bye bye. Have a nice.
Thank you.
Bye.